Okay, so in the first shooting video part of this video, you're going to see me shooting the Steyr L9, and it's the first 30 rounds I actually put through the gun. Overall, the gun again was flawless. There were no mechanical issues with the handgun. It wasn't necessarily the best day of shooting for these guns, but again, it's been some time since I took them out to the range. I felt pretty confident with it. After about 30 rounds, I started feeling a little bit better. You can see in those first couple of shots, I had a couple of low that are hanging out there. But then I start to, really zero in on those trapezoidal sights again, and it seems like the groupings got a little bit tighter. So overall, great gun. Love shooting it, the Steyr L9. Okay, so here you're seeing the Steyr M9. Again, the M9 has the XS big dots, and so you just got to go back and forth between trapezoidal and the big dot. It's kind of an interesting side picture for both. Definitely can throw you off a little bit, especially with that big donut in front of your eye with the big dot. I mean, overall, I think the groupings are somewhat consistent. I don't think there's necessarily an advantage to either one for accuracy. I just think, overall, spend some time with the handguns, and they're easy to master. Again, not the best groupings, but fairly consistent in my opinion, and in my opinion, not too bad. But again, the Steyr M9 is a great gun, and I'd recommend it.
When you come out, like that, right? Here, that's where they come together, and when they go, you should be seeing the sight, putting your finger in as you're moving out, so that you can smooth.
Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So on the table you see two of my most favorite handguns that I've ever owned in my entire life, and of course that is going to be the Steyr M9 and the Steyr L9. Now, to me, these guns are still, for whatever reason, some of the most overlooked handguns on the market. I think there are obviously some things that could be fixed and could be done better. However, with that said, I would say to you that these two by far have been some of the most reliable and most best shooting handguns that I've ever owned. This one currently has roughly about a little over 2,000 rounds. This one's going on about 700 rounds, and I have not had one single failure through either one of these handguns. Now, of course, I have had some other great handguns that have failed with certain issues with them. Some have gone back, some have been sold off over time. But overall, these have tended to be some of the most reliable handguns that I own. I can tell you right now, the only other gun that has never had a failure that I have over 1,000 rounds, actually more than 2,000 rounds over, has been my Walther PPQ, which I still love because it is such a reliable gun. In regards to these two right here, I still can't figure out why they're so underrated overall. Now, I've seen big channels do reviews on this, and then, of course, obviously the guns disappear and you never hear about them again. For me, these have been some of the, again, the best handguns that I've owned. So as a result, I'm going to do another quick overview of these two handguns. So for those of you out there who may be considering looking at these handguns but aren't sure, I'm going to tell you it's very difficult to get your hands on them. Most dealers don't have them. Right by me, locally, there is one place, Wallkill River Small Arms, that actually has a Steyr C9 in the store, which is kind of interesting because it has a long grip and then the shorter slide. And, that's kind of, I guess, something that's a big trend right now. But that would be something somebody could definitely take a look at if you just wanted to feel the grip in your hand so you can kind of understand that, and especially if you're local in my area. Now, overall, I think the Steyr handgun was designed ahead of its time. And the reason why I say that is just because the ergonomics, as I've said before in the past, your hand gets so deep underneath that slide that the recoil action on this is really forcing itself back into this part of your hand. So because you get such a nice grip on it, your hand is really doing a lot of that recoil management. However, one of the other things that I think is overlooked considerably in regards to the Steyr is just how low the guide rod and the recoil spring sit in the actual handgun. Most handguns, what you're going to find is if you take yours apart, this is actually going to sit a little bit higher, which is a little bit further into the gun. Now, basically, this one you can see drops down considerably, and as a result, there is a considerable space in between the barrel and the guide rod and recoil spring. A lot of the handguns that you may have right now, if you take them down, what you're going to notice is that you don't really see that separation. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk over to my safe right here, and I'm actually going to and I'm back. I'm actually going to pick out this gun here, which is another one of my favorite handguns, and this is my M&P 2.0 in the 4 1/4 inch. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is when I take this gun, let me put that right there, is that with the slide comes down a little bit, but you'll notice that there is not that much space from that barrel to the guide rod and recoil spring. Now, if you compare this to the Steyrs, what you're going to see here, guys, and again, it is kind of interesting to look at it from this perspective, at least in my opinion, especially if you're trying to make a reasonable choice for your first handgun, or any handgun choice for that matter. But if you look at the two guns, what you're going to really notice is that Steyr's guide rod is sitting extremely low compared to its slide. Now, keep in mind, that slide is also a pretty slim looking slide. You can see the height of the slide is a lot lower than the M&P. Now, the M&P is a great shooting handgun. It shoots really well, but the Steyr, in my opinion, still is probably the best one that you've seen. Now, of course, if you want to, put the gun back together again, you're going to notice right there that guide rod sits just a little bit of ways into the polymer of the handgun. Now, with the Steyr, what you're going to notice, let's see if I can hopefully focus, is that, let me do this off camera, is that when you begin to put that Steyr back in, you can see that guide rod is sitting pretty low into the actual frame of the gun. And what's going to happen is that as you're shooting the gun, let me just roll this back out here, guys. What you're going to notice is that as you shoot that gun, that recoil is rolling back into the frame, but also into your hand. So it's actually doubling as a way for this gun to really manage that flip. Now, again, remember, it's a 9mm, so you're probably not going to see that much flip to begin with. But this does a fantastic job of mitigating really any recoil. Again, I haven't shot a 40 yet in this gun. I don't know if I'm ever going to be honest with you. But it would be interesting to see how that flip is even relegated with the 40, because it is a snappier round. I mean, overall, these guns tend to be probably my favorite handguns of all. I mean, I think the design is really nice. Obviously, you can see the trapezoidal sights right there, which a lot of people say they have trouble with. And, even after a couple hundred rounds, they're saying, I just need a little bit more time. I find that to be very odd, because with this setup right here, I just think it's very natural. It doesn't take really much. I mean, you just take the triangle and you line it up in between those two, whatever you want to call them, those vertical points. And what you're going to find is if you line that up pretty well, it shoots very straight. So I don't really think it takes that much time to really learn the sight, so to speak. Again, I've got the big dots on here, and if I was going to choose which one I would like better, the big dots are good, but I just like these trapezoidal sights. I think they're just really easy and manageable to use. They're very quick to point and aim. You don't really necessarily have any issues with it, at least in my opinion. Now, again, I've shot thousands of rounds through both total. And from that regards, I think I have it down pretty well. Now, of course, I haven't shot them in a while. And, it took maybe about 20 to 30 rounds to really get back into the feel and the groove of shooting these handguns. But once you do that, I mean, these guns are remarkably accurate and they're remarkably comfortable to shoot. Now, overall, if there was one thing that I was going to say that kind of bugs me about the handgun itself, it's actually the stippling or lack thereof. I mean, you can see this. I don't even know if you can call this texturing, to be honest with you. I think this is the biggest downside of the Steyr, is that it is very slick. And I'm hoping over time, maybe that'll change. Obviously I did my, 2-cent stipple job on here on my own, which you can tell. But it does its job, makes it a nice, comfortable feel, very aggressive, but still comfortable to hold. I mean, overall, the Steyrs have proven to be excellent handguns. And like I said, I wouldn't be showing you these guns if I didn't truly believe in them. I'm not marketing this for Steyr. I'm just simply saying to you that I have had these guns now for probably a year, if not maybe, I don't know, probably maybe a year. I mean, this one I've had maybe, 7 months. This one definitely over a year. I haven't really been, carrying them that often because I've been carrying too many of my M&P 2.0s, which I can't complain about. But I just actually started carrying this again this weekend. And I got to say, guys, it is just a great gun to carry. Yes, it's a little thick. Yes, it's a little bulky. But it is extremely comfortable to shoot, extremely comfortable to carry, and more importantly, extremely reliable. So, as always, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about the Steyr. Are you going to be willing at some point to maybe take that risk like I did when I first bought this one? Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I really think it's worth the risk. I really wish this gun would get more, I guess you could say, publicity than it does. I really wish this gun would have more aftermarket support, but the only way that's going to happen is if people start buying these. And I really think for what they offer and what they have to show you, the low bore axis, the the easy takedown, which is as simple as pushing this in and rotating that, and it comes right off. Again, keep in mind that this whole trigger system in here is actually completely removable. So it is a modular system. They just haven't come out with any grip frames or anything like that. But it really is fairly simple to take everything out. It's not that big a deal. Again, you can see the beefiness of the rails that are on the frame. So, I mean, overall, it is just a really, really fantastic handgun. And I know there's a lot of people out there now that are starting to finally catch on to these guns. So if you have owned a Steyr and you did not like it, I'd like to know why that is. And if you do currently own a Steyr and you do like it, I'd love to hear why that is. And again, just tell us why you think these guns are great or why they suck. But either way, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you want to. That's cool. And as always, I hope you guys have a great night. Hopefully you had a wonderful Mother's Day. And as always, freedom is never free.